Buddy, this is God Saad for the Sad Truth. I spent much of this morning preparing a lecture for you, the title of which is Searching for the Elusive Republican Professor on American University Campuses. In a sense, Republican professors are the modern day unicorn. We think that they exist, but few people have ever seen them. Some of you may remember in some of my previous lectures or discussions, I cited a paper by Cardiff and Klein in 2005 where they had looked at Democratic to Republican voter registration across a bunch of universities in California, and the ratio across disciplines was 5-1, but it could be as high as 44-1, say in sociology. Well, this is, in a sense, a follow-up to that study. One of the authors, at least that I'm aware of, was on both papers, and that's Dan Klein, who is actually my next guest on The Sad Truth. But in any case, let me spend some time discussing the paper that I just discovered by them. This is a paper by Langbert, Quain, and Klein. As I said, just came out this past year. They examined professors' voter registration across leading American universities, specifically in 5 disciplines: economics, history, journalism, law, and psychology. And what I'll basically do, I spent some time, as I said this morning, perusing through the paper, and what I've done is I've taken some of their main figures. It is really truly the case that a picture is worth 1,000 words. And so I'll just go through some of the figures. Now we know already, as I said, that there is a huge disparity between Democratic versus Republican professors on American university campuses. Let's see if the reality has changed from the time that I had discussed the 2005 study. So here we go. So here are 40 universities by their Democrat versus Republican ratio across, as I said, 5 disciplines. And in some cases, journalism is incorporated with communications. Now, I know that you can obviously all read these, but some of you may only be listening to this via an audio podcast, in which case you're not actually watching the lecture. And so it might be worth for me to actually go through each of these. And it certainly would provide a stronger effect to actually go through them. So here we go. Caltech, the ratio is 13-0. Oh, now you might say, how could you have 0 as part of a ratio? That's because within the samples that they looked at, they could not identify a single Republican professor at Caltech. Excuse me, going on. Columbia, 30-1. MIT, 19-1. Lehigh, 12-1. Yeshiva, 8.6-1. Worcester Polytechnic Institute, 9-0. So I guess they had a smaller sample size. Princeton, 30-1. Yale, 16-1. Dartmouth, 12-1. Wake Forest University, 7.6-1. Brown University, 60-1. Liberal bias? What liberal bias? Only deluded Nazi bigots could levy such a charge. 60-1 is quite reasonable. There is no asymmetry there. Brandeis, 28-1. NYU, 16-1. And by the way, of course, it goes without saying that all these ratios are more Democrats to Republicans, right? It's D:R ratio. Duke, 11-1. Penn, wow, Penn, 6.4-1. What the hell? How dare you tolerate more Republicans? This is crazy. Boston University, 40-1. Maryland, 26-1. Carnegie Mellon, 16-1. Stanford, 11-1. Rensselaer, a largely technical engineering school in New York State, 6-1. Johns Hopkins, 35-1. UC Davis, 26-1. UC Irvine, I was there. I was a professor at UC Irvine for 2 years, and actually I spent some time at Dartmouth as well. One of the ones that I mentioned earlier. UC Irvine, 15-1. UCSD, 10 to 1, Penn State 6 to 1, Rochester 35 to 1, USC 26 to 1, UC Berkeley 14 to 1, Harvard 10 to 1, Ohio State, oh man, it is full of Nazi toothless bigots, 3.2 to 1, Northeastern, oh yes, 33 to 1, University of North Carolina 23 to 1, Cornell, my alma mater, I obtained my MS and my PhD there, 13 to 1, UCSB 8.9 to 1, Case Western 3.1 to 1, Tufts University 32 to 1, Boston College 22 to 1, University of Connecticut 13 to 1, UCLA 8.8 to 1, and Nazi Central, the toothless bigots of Pepperdine University overlooking Malibu Beach, Pepperdine University, still Democrats leading, but it's only at 1.2 to 1. So that's figure 1. So we can clearly see that there definitely is absolutely no political or intellectual bias at American universities. The ratios are very, very reasonable. Let's go on. Here is the ratio when you break them down per discipline. Well, in economics, it's 4.5 to 1. History, 33.5 to 1. Oh yes, a very impartial reading of history when you have almost every single historian being a Democrat. Journalism, 20 to 1. What media bias? There is no media bias. You've got a 20 to 1 ratio. That's pretty even. I mean, it certainly is pretty even if you adhere to social justice mathematics where every number is equal. So 20 and 1 are actually equally worthy numbers. Only racist bigots would think that 20 is a bigger number than 1. Then we have law, 8.6 to 1. Psychology, 17.4 to 1. And the average across all the disciplines that were explored, 11.5 to 1. So it's certainly gone up from the Cardiff and Klein 2005 study when it was 5 to 1. In this case, it's a broader range of schools, but covering a smaller set of disciplines. It's at 11.5 to 1. Let's go on. Percentage of departments with 0 registered Republicans. So now what we mean here is each time that they sampled a department, let's say a history department at a particular school, and they had 30 Democrats and 0 Republicans, that would constitute one such example. So in economics, there are 20% of the departments from the universities that were examined that did not have a single registered Republican professor. In history, this is fantastic. 60% of the departments did not have a registered Republican. Same is true in journalism. But I mean, what media bias? How could there be a media bias when 60% of departments don't have a single Republican professor? Only racist bigots would think that there might be a bias. Clearly, this data must have originated from some Nazi party or some alt-right meeting. In law, only 4% of departments don't have Republicans. We need to work on these legal scholars to make sure that they don't tolerate the views of others. In psychology, 45% of departments don't have a single. Again, please remember what this data is showing. So you could be in a department of 25 psychologists, of which not one is a registered Republican. And then the average is that 39% of sampled departments across these universities did not have a single Republican professor. What bias? Then if we look at this ratio across the lifespan, academic lifespan of a professor, well, then what you see is the more senior the professor, the less the ratio is pronounced. One would think it's as if youth is wasted on the young. So assistant professors, 19.3 to 1 ratio. Then as they move to become associate professors, it's still unbelievably asymmetric at 13 to 1. Then when they become full professors, 11.7 to 1. and then when they are emeritus professors, so these are professors who have retired but who've been endowed with this honor of being emeritus professors, it's at 8.6 to 1. A few more slides to go through for you here. If we look at the actual ages of, break down this ratio by age, and the categories are less than 36 years old, 36 to 45, 46 to 55, 56 to 65, and over 65, then again what you see is roughly the same pattern. Younger professors, the ratio is much more pronounced, 22.7 to 1, and then by the time that they are into their 60s, into their mid 60s and above, it's a 10 to 1 ratio. So again, the effect becomes less pronounced, but even when it is the least pronounced, it is a 10 to 1 ratio, right? I mean, it's not a 2 to 1 ratio, right? I mean, 2 to 1 ratio would be quite an extraordinarily strong effect. We're talking about 10 to 1 at the end of your academic career. What bias? No bias. And then if we look at the ratio, when you break it down in terms of the prestige at universities, here what we mean by, or not what we mean, what the authors in question mean by set 1, set 2, set 3, set 4, if you like, those are the most prestigious, second most prestigious, and so on. Then what you see is the more prestigious university, the less political and supposedly intellectual diversity there is. So for the most prestigious universities, the ratio is at 13.6 to 1, and then it tapers off to the least prestigious universities at 8.6 to 1. So now the question is, what do we make of this data? And here I will go to a slide that I had used in my University of Ottawa lecture that I delivered earlier this year. If you haven't seen it, I certainly encourage you to do so, because I had discussed the data from Cardiff and Klein, and when discussing that data, I had put up this slide. The typical rebuttal that you hear whenever you share this type of data is, well, what's surprising about this? I mean, professors are smart and educated people. They are liberal and enlightened. They deal in scientific facts rather than redneck quackery. Of course, they are more likely to be Democrats. Of course, that is a breathtakingly idiotic statement, because while there are scientific facts, there are many issues, and certainly in the ones that are covered in the disciplines within this particular study, where there are no absolute facts. There are issues to be debated. So, for example, what's your position on affirmative action? Are you for or against the death penalty? Or how should we handle crime in general? What is the best fiscal policy? Example, how should we handle taxation and spending? What should be our policy for immigration? Something that, of course, was highly relevant in the recently completed election. What should be our position regarding foreign policy? Should we meddle everywhere, or should we be isolationist, or somewhere in the middle? What's your position on gay marriage, gun control, abortion rights, healthcare? Is profiling when you're combating terrorism a good idea, or is it, quote, racist and bigoted to do so? What are your positions on the welfare state? What are your views on environment, say oil exploration? These issues could have certainly differing opinions, both of which could be supported by reason and logic and science. They're not as clear as, is evolution a fact or not? Is the earth flat or not? If anything, we often hear that Republicans are evolution denying hicks. As an evolutionist, I'm only too aware that when it comes to the specific denial of evolutionary theory, then politicians who actually deny evolution are much more likely to be Republican. That is true. On the other hand, there are other scientific facts where ideology trumps, forgive the pun, trumps science, but that comes from the Democrats. So, for example, the rejection of biological differences between the sexes, or the rejection of evolutionary psychology in general, or the rejection of the possibility that we have a biologically based human nature, are much more likely to come from bien-pensant liberals. And so both parties will at times use ideology to trump science. Neither party is the arbiter of truth. So if you are in the business of creating and disseminating knowledge, as universities are supposed to do, to be in the business of, then you want your professors to hopefully represent the multiplicity of possible views that one could reasonably have, right? Again, scientific facts are not up for debate in the sense of, you could be for the periodic table or against it. That would be silly. But, what your views are on affirmative action, well, it's not just the Democrats who hold the morally superior, deontologically correct position. Only idiots would utter such nonsense. So it is utterly laughable when the intelligentsia and other bien-pensants argue vociferously, if not perfectly dishonestly, against the idea of an ideological bias on university campuses. The data could not be any clearer. I mean, if you made up the data, you couldn't make up the data to be this clean and this clear. I mean, I read you ratios of, 60 to 1, but no, there is no bias. Now, of course, some of you who've been following my work know that I've been speaking against this lack of intellectual and political diversity on university campuses for a while now. This is a profoundly serious problem that needs immediate attention. I mean, not only should you be concerned about this just as a general principle, but I mean, if you have children who one day will be attending university, well, maybe if you are a Bernie Sanders supporter, then you're very happy with the current data that I've shown you. But if you are hoping to send your children to university where they can actually think, where they could debate, where they could be exposed to novel ideas, where they can have their ideas challenged, then you might not want to send them to university because they're likely to only be exposed to one set of ideas. You might want to enroll them or subscribe them to the sad truth. Of course, not all is lost. I'm heartened by the fact that a small but growing number of colleagues are mobilizing to tackle this issue. So, for example, check out Heterodox Academy. I've provided you with the link. John Haidt, who was one of my guests earlier this past summer, is someone who's very involved in this issue. And other folks in academia who are fighting against the orthodoxy include Jordan Peterson and Janice Fiamengo, Alice Dreger. Has also, these are all people who've been on my show. I'm sure I'm forgetting one or two others. Or Christine Huff Summers, who used to be a professor, is also somebody who is an actually a true feminist, a factual feminist, as she calls herself, who recognizes the value of the sexes, well, the reality that the sexes should be equal, whilst recognizing that we are not indistinguishable beings. And so there is a small and growing number of folks that are fighting against this lunacy, but regrettably, too few have actually taken up the cause. Now, so to conclude, I mean, American universities are truly the epitome of insulated echo chambers. I mean, when you talk about echo chambers, it is difficult to come up with an example of an echo chamber that is better represented than that which is captured by universities. I mean, religious organizations have roughly the same amount of intellectual diversity as universities do. This is not good. This echo chamber effect, as found in the media, in universities, and in Hollywood, is precisely what led to this reality. There you go, Donald Trump and Mike Pence. It's precisely what led to students requiring safe spaces because somebody, I think it was at Emory University, wrote in chalk Trump 2016. When you are so insulated from opposing views that you become threatened by chalk, by the words Trump 2016 written, that you need protection, when subsequent to a democratic election, students set up cry-ins and Play-Doh and puppies and therapy dogs and coloring books. This is not Saad satire. These are actually true anecdotes. This stems from exactly what I'm discussing here, right? you have a generation of students who have been inculcated with a single worldview. And so when they don't get that worldview, they revert to being 5-year-olds who drop down to the floor and start crying, akin to a temper tantrum. Not good. So my advice, drop the smug moral haughtiness and create intellectual landscapes where the pluralism of ideas is promoted and debate is encouraged. If your ideas are good, then let them enter into the octagon of ideas and may they win, but allow students to be exposed to the multiplicity of ideas. And again, here we're not talking about the stupidity of, say, the intelligent design folks who say, hey, we just want to have a debate. I mean, you've got your evolution theory and we've got intelligent design. Let's teach the controversy. No, that's religion masquerading under the cloak of science, right? That's just ideology trying to infuse itself within science. That's wrong. But as I mentioned, when it comes to affirmative action and the death penalty and fiscal policy and taxation and the welfare state, there is no singular point of view that is absolutely, without any doubt, correct. That's why we have political debates. So to conclude, the article covered in this clip can be accessed. You've got it right there. Check it out. You can actually download the paper and read it. Very interesting paper to read. As I said, if I may do so at the start of the new year, it truly takes a lot of time and effort to put these clips together for you. As I said, it took me a couple of hours this morning between perusing through the paper and then preparing this lecture. This is on day 2 of my sabbatical leave. There are many things that I could be doing with my time, and yet I'm incredibly excited by this venue, the possibility of being able to just turn on the recording and share ideas with tons of people. And this is why I'm frankly thrilled and addicted to the idea of being able to have this forum and share it with you. But as I said, it takes a lot of time and effort. And so if you are consuming this product, if you are appreciating what I do, remembering that it costs $60,000 per year to go to university in the US, then maybe you could go to Patreon or to PayPal and support my work. I won't tell you what an hour of my time would be if I were, say, levying a consulting fee. So my time is not free. It takes a lot of effort. Please contribute if you can. And if nothing else, then please don't forget to share this clip with as many people as possible. As I said, one of the authors of the paper that I've just discussed will be my next guest. His name is Dan Klein. He's an economist at George Mason University. I'm very much looking forward to talking to him. Wishing you all a great and wonderful and productive and healthy and happy new year. Talk to you soon. Cheers.